Hello and welcome to this episode of the Print on Demand Playbook Podcast. I'm your host, Adrian here with my co-host, Carrie Egler. And in this episode, we are discussing 7 habits of highly successful sellers. Having made millions in online sales ourselves and having coached countless students throughout the years, we've been able to identify some of the common traits that really make high performers stand out and see success much quicker. So in this episode, we're going to be reverse engineering those traits. We are going to be going deep so that you can learn from their success. But first, real quick before we begin, if you have not already, please be sure to subscribe to the podcast on whichever platform you're listening from or on YouTube. We really appreciate it. It helps us reach new listeners. And with that, thank you for being here and let's jump in. What's up, guys? Welcome to the show. We've actually had a lot of requests over the last couple of months for some mindset episodes. And I know Carrie did some awesome ones a couple episodes back. So that's actually what inspired this episode. I thought it'd be kind of fun to take a break from the strategy heavy episodes because we do a lot. Like there's a lot of strategy in this podcast for anyone who's been listening for a while. However, we're also going to be giving you actionable tips and advice throughout the podcast as well. So it's not going to be fluffy, but it's going to be very focused on mindset because, I mean, everything starts with belief. And we're going to talk about that as we go throughout. But mindset is so important. But before we get into that, Carrie, man, what's going on?
What's up, dude? How's it going?
I'm good, man. I'm good. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. I'm really excited about this episode, number one, because I know that you have some really awesome advice on mindset and just that, you have awesome quotes and you read a lot of books and all those things. I'm also excited because I want to see how many of these 7 habits that I actually subscribe to. Just probably like 1 out of 7.
No, man. Kidding. I mean, you were definitely part of the inspiration for this. Awesome. Essentially, what I did was I just took an inventory of a lot of successful sellers that I know, and then I kind of summarized all the consistencies amongst them. And this is what I want to share with our listeners, right? Like, success leaves clues. Good. You want to find out what the successful people are doing, and then you want to reverse engineer that on every level, including mindset. I mean, you talk to a lot of people who are having success, and they just have like this winning mindset. There's a quote I heard from Tony Robbins, actually. I'm going to be talking a lot about Tony Robbins because I love Tony Robbins, but he said, winners win, losers lose. And maybe some people don't know what that means, but that hit me hard. Like when I heard that, I was like, yeah. Like the people that I know that win, like they just have this winning spirit to them. And if you haven't won, like you can get that. And then you can make that a habit of yours and you can continue winning in the future. But mindset does play a really big part. You have to have confidence. 100%. You have to have belief, So I actually named this episode, it's a play on words of the book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey, which is just a really good book. Highly recommend. So if there's time at the end, I think giving some good book recommendations would be really awesome because I know books are, I'm a big reader. And, they say readers are leaders. So I'm always trying to consume valuable content that I can, take and apply. And a lot of that is actually around mindset. But just before we jump into the 7 habits of highly successful sellers, let me shout out one of our amazing listeners. So this is an Apple review. Thank you, everyone who's been leaving Apple reviews lately. You guys are so awesome. We had kind of a dry spell there for a while. And some of our listeners really stepped up, right? And we started to get more, but please keep them coming because this is actually the last one. This is the last one.
I must be looking somewhere else because I saw actually a bunch that we haven't done. So we'll have some more. We have some more in there.
Oh, maybe you're looking at international.
Yeah, either international or maybe what I'm looking at is also using like Spotify and different stuff. Because I think you're
Yes.
just looking at the Apple ones for sure.
I am. And Apple within the US, but I do love shouting out our international peeps as well. We've got a lot of international students, a lot of international listeners. You guys are awesome. So yeah, we'll be shouting y'all out. But this comes from Colts/Ravens Loyal. That is the name of this Apple
49ers.
review.
Ooh,
What do you mean, boo?
49ers faithful, baby. Just kidding, yeah. We love you.
I take it it's a reference to football with the Ravens. The Colts, is that Indianapolis? Is that football too?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
I should know this, man.
Colts were my second favorite team. Second favorite team group. The Colts were my second favorite team growing up because I loved Peyton Manning, Marvin Harrison, and those guys.
Nice. Well, I mean, we've got a Colts Ravens loyal here. So they say, hey guys, great podcast with topics that are really actionable and not fluffy. Keep it up, guys, and looking forward to getting involved in more of your projects.
Ooh, I love that.
Thank you. That is,
thank you.
You're awesome, man, or woman, whoever it is. Thank you for taking the time. What's that, Carrie?
No, I said we appreciate you. Thank you. Yeah, that's great. We love it. We
appreciate every single one of our listeners, and we really appreciate anyone who, who's enjoying the podcast and writes a review. You guys are awesome. So with that, let's jump into the good stuff. And I'm going to go through each step one by one. And then at the end, I'll summarize the 7 steps. All right. Just because we're going to be talking about each one. We're going to be breaking down each step as we go. And I've applied a quote. I am a massive quotes guy. And I've applied a quote to every single point that I found inspirational. And I hope our listeners find inspiration as well. So number 1 is the first step of 7 habits of highly successful sellers is they believe success is possible for them. This is massive. And I want to start by sharing another Tony Robbins quote where he says, all breakthroughs start with a change in your beliefs. Powerful stuff, right? I mean, really everything starts with belief. If you don't believe that you're capable of succeeding as an entrepreneur, you might as well not start. And I don't mean that in a discouraging way. I mean this to be encouraging, but like everything starts with belief. Like if you are like, oh, I'm going to fail at this and you haven't even started taking action, you need to do some inner work. You need to go and you need to figure out where this scarcity mindset is coming from. What's the root of this? Did you grow up in poverty? Did you fail in the past? Like what was it that's making you think that so many other people having success is not possible for you? There's a really good Steve Jobs quote, and I'm going to butcher this, but he says something like, everything changes when you realize that all the things in the world were created by people no better than you, no smarter than you. Sorry, he says no smarter than you. Something around that. And I truly believe that. Like, there's very successful people that they're not book smart, they're not techie, they grew up in poverty, yet somehow they found a way, they believed in themselves, and they found a way to make it happen. And I feel like this is a consistent trend, right? Everything starts with belief. And it's not enough for someone to tell you that they believe in you. Like, it's not enough for me to say, I believe in you. I do believe in our listeners. I believe that if you apply the strategies that we teach, you can see the same success as so many others who apply these strategies. But that's not enough. It's not enough for your mom to tell you. It's not enough for your spouse to tell you. It's not enough. You truly need to believe it. And until you believe, then there's not really that much point in progressing, because you're going in expecting to lose, because you're like, I don't believe this level of success is possible for me. Yet every day there's people taking action, staying consistent, applying strategies at work and seeing success, and they're not any smarter than you. So really what it comes down to, I believe, is the scarcity versus abundance mindset. And this can absolutely be changed. This is not something like, if you struggle with a scarcity mindset, you're not going to be plagued with that for the rest of your life. You don't have to be. You can be if you choose to be. However, if you do exercises, if you build yourself up, if you surround yourself with people who inspire you and bring you up, if you inspire yourself with other people having success, guess what? It's going to rub off. It's contagious. And that's just one of the ways. I mean, one thing I love to do is I actually, whenever I'm feeling kind of down, I really like to listen to inspirational YouTube videos from people like Tony Robbins, Bob Proctor, Alex Hormozy. These people inspire me. They're just people who I love to listen to when I need a little pick me up. And sometimes that's all I need. And I'm good to go for the for the next little period of time. But Carrie, I want to hear your thoughts on this because, neither of us came from wealth or privilege, yet we've been able to have a lot of success ourselves, and we've been able to teach a lot of students to have success as well. So I just want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, man, this is a really powerful one. I'm actually really glad that you put this first. And, just to kind of recap is the number one is they believe success is possible for them. And so the first step, for you to become a successful whatever, but we're using the example of being a successful apparel seller or print-on-demand seller, you have to believe it. And the thing that came to mind was from Napoleon Hill from Think and Grow Rich. And he says in that book, whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. And just to break that down, the first step is you have to be able to imagine it. You have to be able to see what could be, right? So conceive it. What does that look like to you? And you sit down and you think about, you just let your imagination go and you think about, what would life look like if I was a successful print-on-demand apparel or seller or a business owner or whatever? What would life look like? What would my daily look like? And like, what would that feel like? And those kind of things. Start imagining it, right? So you can see it in your mind. You can see what that life would look like. What would your bank account look like? Those kind of things. But then the second step is you have to believe it. And one of the things that Napoleon Hill teaches in order to train yourself to believe it is he says that he would sit down and he would write down his goal, I guess you could say, like hundreds of times in the morning, and then he would say it out loud, and then he would do the same thing every night, and he would do that every single day. And you'd wake up in the morning and say, he used a specific money goal. And so what I actually did this very early on in my entrepreneurial journey was I wrote down, I will have $1 million in my bank account by whatever date. And it was like a year from there. And I didn't achieve that goal, but spoiler alert, but like I achieved incredible amounts of like success that I think that was partly responsible for. But the point of that is that I wake up in the morning, first thing I would do is write that and say it out loud and repeat it out loud so that I could hear it, right? I could hear myself saying it. And then I do it at night, right? And you do it every day and you do it every day. And what happens is you train yourself to believe it. Like you literally wake up one day and you believe it. Like there's no more doubt because you've been writing it and saying it every single day. And I thought that was so interesting because that's so practical, right? It's like, how do we make ourselves believe something? It's like, I don't know. You know what I mean? But the simple thing of like writing it down and repeating it to yourself will actually like train your brain to believe it. And the last key is, once you can imagine it and you can conceive it, and once you believe it, you have everything you need to achieve that goal and to become that person. And so I think that's so powerful, and really just speaking to giving our listeners something actionable. That's something actionable you can do, right? You have to imagine it and have that, and then you have to train yourself to believe it. And once you do that, you're able to achieve it. And so the first step before you can implement all the strategies we share on the podcast and all the knowledge that we put in our courses and our coaching and different things like that, and you see on YouTube, you can't really implement it until you have a goal and you believe that you can achieve it. So that, I think that's awesome, man. That's what I got.
Cool. I love that, man. And it actually reminds me of a Bob Proctor affirmation. It's like a money affirmation from Bob Proctor. And I love this. He tells people just repeat this every day. And he says, I am so happy and grateful now that money comes to me in increasing quantities through multiple sources on a continuous basis. Mm-hmm. And it's just like affirming it. And I mean, I just want to make one thing clear. Like affirmations, I love affirmations. I love the law of attraction. I'm all about that. However, like action is required. Like you want to do this stuff to pump you up to take the action.
For sure.
Right. And so reading this first thing in the morning, I mean, that's going to make you feel pretty darn good. You know what I mean? I think so many people, there's so much fear around being an entrepreneur. And even though they want to be one so bad and they see others living their dream life that they could also live if they took the action and did the things, things like this can really help you kind of break through the terror barrier. That's another quote of Bob Proctor, break through the terror barrier. And I think one of the best ways, going back to actionable stuff, one of the best ways to increase your confidence is to have courage, like to do the hard things, because the more of those things you have courage to do, the more it's just going to build your confidence and momentum. Right. And I feel like that's really where what it is for me, what it's been in my experience is, man, I was so scared to do so many of the things that I did, but I freaking did it anyway. I felt the fear and did it anyway. And I think that that's where there's a pivot point for a lot of people. There's some people who they're scared of something, and so they step back into comfort. And then there's other people who are like, feel the fear and do it anyway, and they step into growth. And that is what changes the game. That's what separates a lot of the winners from the not winners. I don't want to call them losers, but from the not winners, right? There's another quote in Think and Grow Rich. I'm glad you brought up that book, because there's a consistent trend. So many millionaires that I've met in my life have read and recommend this book, Think and Grow Rich. And because of that, I had to read it. And now I've read it multiple times over. It's actually the book that pretty much all of Bob Proctor's teachings are based upon. He read it every single day since his 20s until he passed away. And I highly recommend that book to everyone. Definitely read it. I think it'll really help you, give you some, give you courage and just get you inspired. But one of the quotes I really like from this book is Napoleon Hill, the author, says, "Fear, the worst of all enemies, can be effectively cured by repetition of courage." Put in the reps, like feel the fear and do it anyway. Have you wanted to create content for your brand and actually thought you and wanted to step in front of the camera and kind of be the face of your brand? It's not for everybody, but there's a lot of people doing it and having a lot of success with it. And if you're one of those people, just do it. Like, do it today. Just after you listen to this podcast, put your phone up and record something. And you know what? It's probably going to be pretty bad at the beginning. I was so terrified to show up on camera. And when I finally did, I sucked. I was terrible, because that's kind of how it is. Like, babies suck when they're trying to walk at first, you know what I mean? But they keep walking and they keep walking, they keep getting up. And eventually they're walking like everyone else. They're not throwing in the towel being like, this is too hard, I'm done, I'm just going to sit my whole life, right? Like, I'm just giving examples, but like getting in front of the camera is just one of many examples. A lot of people have fear of social media. You know how you can overcome that fear? Repetition of courage. Go out there and post on social media, even if you're not the one in front of the camera. If you're scared of it, overcome it by repeating acts of courage. Yeah. So that's all I have to say about that point. We can do probably a whole episode around just that. But Carrie, did you have any closing thoughts on
No.
tip one? Okay.
No, let's keep going.
All right. Tip number 2, they have a strong why. Now, this is probably one of the biggest differentiators between a lot of people that I see who have success and a lot of people I see that don't have success. And it's not even that they don't have success as much as they just are very quick to throw in the towel, because there's no emotion behind why they're doing what they're doing except something superficial. Like, I just want to make money. That's great. We love money. We love making money too. But why? Why do you want to make money? Do you want to put your kids through college? Do you want to retire your spouse? Do you want to create something that you can pass on to future generations? Do you want to create security for your family? Why? Like, why are you doing this? You have to put emotion behind it. The people that put the emotion behind it, which a lot of our students, we've asked them this, and there was a lot of emotion behind it. But the people that put emotion behind it, they're the ones that they're going to have a bad day and they're going to be like, it was a bad day, not a bad life. I'm just going to like pick myself up tomorrow and carry on. And then there's the other people that have a bad day and they're like, to hell with this. I'm done. This is too hard. I can't do this. And there's just nothing continuing to drive them, right? So this is why I believe that having a why is so powerful, because it's going to drive you through the tough times, which I promise there's going to be tough times. If this was easy, everyone would be a millionaire, everyone would be successful, everyone would be killing it, right? It's simple. Like, there are simple strategies to follow to significantly increase your chance of success. But I'm not going to tell you it's super easy, because it's not. Like, it takes some sweat equity. You got to put some hustle in, and you don't have to be working 80 hours a week or even 40 hours a week. Some people are doing this and seeing results with 2 hours a day. So that would be like 2 times 5, 10 to 14 hours a week, right? There are some people having success with that little because they're working smarter, not harder. They've figured out strategies that allow them to maximize their output while minimizing the input. And that's something that you're going to learn when you learn a proven strategy. You shouldn't be, what's interesting about this is I see some people having a lot of success and they're putting in the same amount of work as people that aren't having success, and vice versa. So someone might be working 20 hours a week on their business, and one person's killing it and the other person is not seeing success at all. Like, there's not a there's not a specific number of hours that you have to input to see results, right? So bringing this back, because I kind of like went down a rabbit hole there, but bringing it back to your why. I want people to know that success is not a linear path. Like, Carrie, you can speak for yourself, but I know that it has never been linear for me. It's never been linear for me. It's not linear for most people. People are going to hit peaks and valleys, throughout their journey. But remembering your why is going to allow you to pick yourself up and carry on. So I want to hear your thoughts around this, Gary.
Yeah, I mean, talking about your why specifically, I just think that the biggest thing I think about when it comes to your why is it is your why you're doing what you're doing is going to be the thing that and you have it in here, and I think you even mentioned it, but it's going to be the thing that drives you forward through tough times and through good times. And mainly through the tough times, right? You think about, and for a lot of people listening, me included, that the biggest why is going to be your family, and the ones that are really counting on you. For me, I support my household, and I have a wife and 2 kids, and my 2 kids are very young, and that's my why. Like, I wake up every day, and it's I think about what's in front of me. And the reason I get out of bed and do it every day is because I love my family. I'm, so much. And that's what drives me, is like wanting to create that life for them that I wish I had as a kid. That's really the why. Right. And not to get like too deep and emotional or whatever, but it's just something I didn't have as a kid. I didn't have my parents didn't have any money. And it was quite the opposite. Our electricity was getting turned off, and my dad would like pawn my gaming systems to like pay the rent and stuff like that, and they couldn't keep a job and just all those different things. And so it's always been my biggest why to never have my kids go through that. And my kids, I mean, sometimes it's overwhelming the opposite direction, because I look at my kids and I'm like, you just have my daughter has no idea like the kind of just amazing life that she has. Like, she says things sometimes and I just look at her like, you are just completely clueless on anything. Like, my son is just like, Dad, give me some money. Like, it's just like, what? Like, what? Anyways, that's just spoiled rotten. But anyways, that's what gets me out of bed. And so, like, the reason you want to have a why is because there's going to be hard days, there's going to be hard seasons, and you have to continue to be able to push through. And the only thing that's going to, or one of the only things that's going to help you push through those hard seasons is the reason that you are doing what you're doing and coming back to that. Right. And as you mentioned, it's so easy in the good times just to be like, everything's good, not even worried, not even concerned, just kind of, I'm drawing back a little bit. I'm not working as much or whatever, or I'm not trying as hard. I'm not putting in the reps. But those storms are going to come, whether you like it or not, they're going to come. And you have to be able to push through. Last story is, last year, a lot of people know I lost my dad in the middle of 2023. And that was like a huge storm that hit my family, all of my family. Didn't really hit my like immediate family as much because my kids and my wife didn't really know my dad very much. But there was also like a financial burden. I'm the one in the family that, to be honest, has a little bit of wealth or whatever. I've done well for myself. And so like everybody looked at me, like, are you going to pay for this and pay for this and pay for this and pay for this? And so like, it was just a storm on all levels. Emotionally, there were so many things that came up with my family, financially. I mean, like all the different levels. And so I had to come back to, why do I do what I do? I want to crawl up in a ball for a while, but I have to continue to push through this season. And I know that this season's just going to be, it's a season, right? So seasons don't last forever. And we're going to get to a new season, but I can't just throw in the towel. And so that I had to remember why I do what I do. And that got me through that season and helped me continue to make content and, help others grow their businesses and all the different things that I do. And so, anyways, that's what I would say is just like your why is what will drive you through the seasons of life and entrepreneurship.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, man, that's a really, good kind of touching story. And I feel like it comes back to family for a lot of people. Like for me, my why is freedom. I want freedom of time, freedom of location, and freedom of finances. I want to live life on my own terms. I don't want to have to ask my boss permission for 2 weeks of vacation a year and be working in a cubicle for the most capable years of my life. That's just not for me. It's for some people. That's totally fine. I respect that. No problem. But it's not for me. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs, they're driven by something similar. But when you actually go deeper, it goes even deeper than that. Like, why do I want freedom of time, location, and finances? Well, I want freedom of time to spend more time with my family. I want freedom of location to spend more time with my family. I want freedom of finances to provide security for my family. Like it all comes back to family as well. Like I don't want wealth for the sake of wealth. Like I wasn't born into wealth and I wasn't born into privilege. So what I want to do is I just want to create security for my family and for my future generations. That's what really drives me. That's where the freedom, that's where the freedom kind of comes from, right? And I think most people, they have a similar story when they dig deep. And that's going to be, like Carrie said, like we've been saying, that's going to be what drives you. Like if your family drives you, have a picture of your family by your computer. And when you're having a bad day, look at them and be like, like I'm doing this for you. I'm doing this for you. Like that's very inspiring. That's going to keep you going on the tough days. So for entrepreneurs, there's a couple of questions that I really like to ask entrepreneurs. And I feel like this can kind of determine their success level like very early on. One is, why do you want to be an entrepreneur? If someone's like, oh, I just want the Lamborghinis and the Rolex watches and the mansions. Yeah, I mean, some people, that's going to be enough for them to do all that work. But a lot of people, it's not, because there's just not enough emotion tied to it, right? That doesn't appeal to me at all. I don't want a mansion. I don't want a Lamborghini. I don't want a Rolex watch. I want to provide for my family. That's what it comes down to. I don't care about that other stuff. And maybe other people do. If that's going to be what motivates you, cool. But I don't believe that that's enough for a lot of people, because those are nice to haves, right? You're not going to die if you don't have a Rolex or if you don't have a mansion or a Lamborghini, So the first question is, why do you want to be an entrepreneur? The second question you should ask yourself is, what motivates you to take action? Like what, and put some emotion behind it. Like what motivates you to take action. This is where Carrie and I shared, it's our families. We want to be providers for our family, and we want to create security for our family and spend time with them. And then the third question is, what is it that drives you in your life? And I mean, that again, for a lot of people, it comes down to family, but it can come down to other things as well. Maybe some people, they just want to leave a legacy. They just want to be known for doing something that they're very proud of. And there's a lot of different reasons. So those are all questions that you should ask yourself. And I'm going to close up this one by sharing a quote that I was going to share at the very start, but I got too excited and just jumped right in. And that quote is from John Maxwell. And he says, find your why and you'll find your way. I truly believe that. Having a strong why is fluffy as that might seem to some people, that can be the difference between success and failure. So let's jump into number 3. The third habit of highly successful sellers. They have SMART goals. So there's a really good quote actually in the Bible that says, where there is no vision, the people perish. And I actually like to tweak this quote and change it to, where there is no vision, the businesses perish. Goal setting is huge. It keeps you on track, it keeps you focused, and it keeps your eyes on the prize, right? I heard one of the number one reasons brands fail is lack of focus. And a lot of that can be chalked up to not having goals or not actually following through with them. If you just wrote down your goals and never looked at them again, that's not overly helpful, right? And there's a lot of science to back the power of goal setting. Like, I'm just going to share a couple of things here that I found. According to research, goal clarity has a direct influence on overall motivation. And what that means is being specific about your goals significantly increases your motivation and strongly contributes to the accomplishment of your goals. And this is just a consistent trend that you see, right? So a lot of successful entrepreneurs, pretty much every successful entrepreneur has goals and they're focused on those goals. That's like the main focus. And this is actually why I like doing a lot of challenges in my beginner coaching program, T-Shirt Legends Academy, and in our advanced coaching program, Six Figure Founder. We do a lot of challenges and people really enjoy those because it makes them feel like they're working towards something. You know, it's just it adds an extra layer of accountability. So just before I hand this off to Carrie to hear his thoughts, I just want to break down what SMART goals mean. So I'm sure a lot of our listeners have heard of SMART goals, but I don't want to assume that everyone knows what that means. So I'm just going to kind of break it down. So it's actually an acronym for specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time bound. So your goals should be specific. You should be very, very clear. It's not like, I want to make 6 figures. Great. How? Break that down, reverse engineer it, create micro steps for how you can make 6 figures. What's it going to take, right? Mm-hmm. Peel back the layers of the onion, so to speak. Measurable, something that you can actually measure. Again, 6 figures, that is measurable, but there has to be action items to get there. Because if you just say that and then don't have any action items to get you there, then you're going to have some problems. Next is attainable. So you want to make it ambitious, but you also want to make it attainable. If I said, I want to make $1 million in 30 days and I haven't even launched my brand, like, come on, I'm all about big goals, but that's just like not, you're setting yourself up for failure. And it kind of leads into the next one too, which is realistic. Ambitious, but realistic, something you can actually do. And then lastly, time bound. I love putting dates to goals. So I want to give just a really, really simple example of a goal that meets all of this criteria. I will release 10 new designs in the next 30 days. Is it specific? Yes. Is it measurable? Yes. 10 new designs. Is it attainable? Absolutely. I can create 10 designs in the next 30 days. Is it realistic? 100% time bound in the next 30 days. So, Carrie, I want to hear your thoughts about goal setting.
Yeah, man, I think goal setting's awesome. There wasn't a whole lot that came to mind. The biggest thing that came to mind just how I personally set goals is, number one, I like what you talked about the SMART goal setting. I think the goals do need to be realistic. I think that's a really big thing. And the way that I like to set goals is I like to set, 2 things. I like to set short-term somewhat longer term and then like very long term goals.
Yep.
Like I like to think about when it comes to a business or a project, what is kind of and I know there's not necessarily a final outcome, but what is kind of like the pinnacle of where I want to get to with that, like whether it's 5 years or 10 years down the road, like what's the really, really big goal that I want to get to? What's that kind of intermediate goal? Maybe that's in the next 2-3 years. And then what's in the short term, like maybe the next 6 months to a year, where do I want to get? I like to set those kind of short term and then longer term goals. When I think about launching a product, like I think about, okay, initially, what do I want this product to do? Like in revenue or whatever. And then long term, what do I want it to do? And those kind of things. And I'm having a little bit of a mind blank on the other part that I wanted to share on that. That was the biggest thing, just like short term, kind of long term goals, making those realistic, making them actionable. I think was another great point that you brought up. So when you come up with a goal, how are you actually going to get there? Breaking that down into steps. I think that's really, really big. And if I remember what else I was going to say, I'll come back to it. But that's sure. A little bit of what I would share about goals.
Yeah, I love that, man. I love it.
I was going to say, I remembered.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I was just going to say good, better, and best. I like setting good, better, and best goals, right? I do like to have that goal that's a little outlandish. I'm not saying that's $1 million in 30 days, like you mentioned, but having that goal that's like, man, if this were just like an absolute home run, below all my expectations, what does that look like, right? And and then when I set that like good, like that tier 1, it's like, what is a win? I have to think about what is a win. Anything less than this is not a win in my book, but what is a win? And that's kind of that tier 1. And then somewhere in the middle of those, the crazy goal on the best end and the what is, minimum win goal and the good, that's where that better goal is. So anyways, I'm done. Go ahead.
No, that's good. That's great. Dude, like I'm sure our listeners really value your insights. You've had a lot of success. Like people want to learn from people who've had success. They say, don't take advice from people who haven't been where you want to go. You've been where a lot of our listeners want to go. And so it's this is very helpful and valuable stuff. There's an amazing book. I'm just going to thread book recommendations throughout the podcast. I was going to save till the end, but I just feel like there's relevant times to talk about the books. One of my favorite books of all times, which I think every entrepreneur should read. Like I recommend going out and getting this book as soon as possible if you haven't read it already. And that's Atomic Habits by James Clear. Have you read that book, Carrie?
No.
Dude, read that book. It's so good.
I've heard about it so many times. I need to read it.
I've read it multiple times, and there's a lot in there about goal setting. There's a lot in there about mindset. It kind of puts everything together, but it also takes kind of like a science-backed approach, and talks about case studies and stuff like that. It's just one of the absolute best books I could ever recommend for entrepreneurs. So, I think that lines up well with setting smart goals. Mm-hmm. All right. Number 4, the 4th habit of highly successful sellers. They take action and stay consistent. This is something that Carrie and I just absolutely hammer home on such a regular basis, but it's something that needs to continue being hammered home. And there's a quote that I love by Denzel Washington where he says, without commitment, you'll never start, but without consistency, you'll never finish. And I 100% believe this and agree with this. And so many successful sellers, a common thread amongst them is, first, they took action. They took messy and perfect action. They just got stuff done. And then they remained consistent, because that's also part of that recipe, right? So me personally, I didn't get the best grades in college. I'm not gifted with any special abilities. I'm not overly techie. I'm no guru. But I think one of my superpowers, and this can be a superpower of almost anyone, really, if you set your mind to it, is just to take action and remain consistent. This is the mindset that you should have as an entrepreneur. You know what I mean? And I mean, an example of this is this podcast. Like Carrie and I decided probably in it was in 2022 that we were going to launch a podcast in January of 2023. And we committed to releasing a new episode every Friday. And I'm very proud to say that we've never missed a single week. In 15 months, we've never missed a week because this is a commitment. This is a commitment we made to ourselves and to our listeners. We want our listeners to know that every Friday, they can expect to hear from us. They can expect a new podcast. And this is important to us. And it's not always easy. There's times where it's very, very challenging. And you may have noticed that we do solo episodes. The reason why we do that is because we're just trying to be consistent. And there are some weeks that we just cannot align our schedules. We're both very busy individuals, just like our listeners are, but we still make it happen, right? We find a way and we do solo episodes. And what that does is that makes it so that we can remain consistent. Carrie, I want to hear your thoughts.
When we do those, people think we're breaking up, Adrian. They think it's over.
I've got messages from people being like, hey, what's going on with you and Carrie? I'm like, nothing.
We're beefing. Right. Can't stand you. Man, I'm really proud of that too. Like as a side note, really proud that we've been doing this podcast. We've really been doing it for 15 months. That's 15 wild.
15 months, man, since January 2023. Never.
What is that, like 60 some odd? I guess I know how many episodes it is. This is episode 71.
Yeah.
71 episodes. It goes by fast, man. It's interesting. Man, they take action and stay consistent. You're going to have to cut me off because I could go on this one just forever and ever and ever. Yeah, I mean, like one of the hallmarks of everything I've done, over the last few years here with Shirt School and everything is just taking imperfect action. I think it's so important to be an action taker, but then like you said, be consistent. And one of the things that I would just want to tell people is that one of the unlocks for me, because I talk about taking imperfect action, and that's really, it's never going to be perfect, right? Like your website, your designs, your business. I mean, it's never going to be perfect, right? And I'm one of those people that is a perfectionist that wants things to be beautiful and wants things to be like ironed out. And I want all that stuff. And I get hung up on those things. But when you have the realization, and I had an unlock that, and I was okay. And I began to be okay with the fact that it's never going to be perfect, no matter what it is in front of you, whether that's your website, your designs, your ads, your marketing, the reviews that you get, you're going to get bad reviews, right? You're going to get returns, anything, our content. We talk about our content, our podcast. How many episodes, Adrian, did we do on Zoom, which was like horrible. We just did it on Zoom. The audio was bad. We did very minimal editing, and like we've incrementally been trying to make it better. We've got a laundry list of things we want to improve on this podcast. But the reality is of this podcast is if we would have waited to plan out and iron out and perfect everything, I don't know that we ever would have started, right? Yeah. I don't know that we would be 71 episodes in because we just decided, okay, let's name it. Let's get a standard thumbnail for YouTube. Let's jump on Zoom. We don't really know how to do this. You didn't have a good camera. I
was using my laptop camera.
Yeah. I don't even think you had like a mic at one point or something. Like maybe you had that route. I don't remember.
When we started out.
Yeah. So we just started, right? Like we just went for it. But like an unlock for me was coming to grips and coming to terms with it is never going to be perfect. And that is okay. Mm-hmm. Like not just a podcast, but anything. Being okay with that and taking action regardless of everything being perfect and iron out, like launch before you're ready, right? Like somebody that I follow, Sean Cannell, he teaches YouTube stuff, right?
He's awesome.
He says like, just press record, like just press record, just go, like post your first video before you're ready. Like, just go, like, just do it. And he really encouraged me in that realm to kind of get going. But with anything, like you have to learn to just be an action taker, take action quickly, understand that if you have failure, like who cares, right? Like you put a video out there and it doesn't get any views.
Right.
You put a video out there and it doesn't get any views. Who cares? Like, and like Russell Brunson talks about, like, you want people to see you, like you want those videos to have 3 views when they're terrible, right? Like you don't want the videos, like, yeah, like you want the views when your stuff is good, right? So like, it's just like, man, just go, like you're going to get better. You're going to get better. You're going to get better. taking action, man. Like you just got to do it, and then staying consistent. I mean, I think consistency is one of the biggest keys to anything, because I think as people, as humans, we just give up on things too quickly, right? We just want, especially in 2024, we want instant gratification. We want everything now. It is, that's just how we are in today's world because of social media and all the different things, you know, and that quick hit of dopamine. And we have to be disciplined to be consistent. And that is the only way that we get better at anything, right? And fitness is the easiest thing. Is like, if you want big muscles, you have to lift weights, and you can't just do it for a week.
Right.
You lift weights. You can go lift weights every day for a week for 2 hours a day, and you're probably going to see very minimal results. You do it every day for 2 hours for a month, you're going to see a little bit of results. You do it every day consistently for 6 months, you're probably going to be freaking ripped. You know what I mean? You do it for a year, you're going to be freaking shredded, you know? And so it's just the consistency, eating right. And it doesn't change when you have a business, right? Everything is like, you want to be a good copywriter, you have to write copy consistently. You will get better. Like, you want to be good at a sport, you have to do it. You have to train consistently. You will get better. I mean, it really translates to anything in your life. Being a parent, I mean, anything you can think of. And so these are two like huge keys. Go take action, start, launch before you're ready, and then be consistent with whatever you do. And you will get to that success for sure.
Yeah, it comes back to really practice makes perfect. I mean, it sounds so cliche, but I mean, you know, that's what Russell Brunson said. He's like, you're going to suck. I remember he did a podcast himself, and one of his friends, he asked, like, I think when they were like, he was 100 episodes in, one of his friends is like, hey man, I really like your podcast. Like, your first episodes were really bad. Like the first quite a few episodes were really bad, but you really got a lot better over time. And that's how it goes with everything. Like, a lot of our successful students that are running ads successfully, we have a student in Six Figure Founder running ads at a 7 times return on ad spend right now. 7 times. That means for every dollar she's spending on ads, she's getting $7 in revenue. And she started taking action on ads like everybody else, and she just got better and better and better. What's that?
She's been running ads over a year.
Yeah. Like, she started her business in 2023, and she started running ads. And of course, like pretty much everybody, she didn't have huge success right out of the gate starting running ads, but she didn't quit. She just got better and optimized and continued to create better products over time and kind of take feedback and move forward. And she's having a lot of success right now. And, you know, another one of our students, they're having a lot of success growing their Instagram very quick. And it's no coincidence that they're also extremely consistent. Like, they weren't a success out of the gate. I remember they'd been going for months, and they'd actually gotten viral multiple times, and they only had 77 followers. But they didn't quit, right? They just kept kind of figuring out what their viral style strategy is, what kind of content was allowing them to go viral for their ideal customer. And then they leaned in and they doubled down, and they just did a lot of that. And they were able to grow from 77 to well over 7,000 followers just within a few months. I mean, it comes down to action and consistency. The last thing I want to say about this, and this is a quote for anyone listening who is just taking in all the information that they're learning on this podcast, but they have not yet taken action. This quote is for you, okay? Information without implementation will not help you achieve your goals. And I'm not trying to put you down or anything. I'm trying to inspire you to take action. Like, if you haven't taken action yet and you've just been soaking it all up, you probably have a lot of the information you need to start taking action, but you have to go out there and take it. So I want to challenge you. If you're one of those people, in the next 24 hours, I want you to take action in some way. I don't know what that is. Maybe it's getting a domain. Maybe it's getting a Shopify account. Maybe you have a Shopify account, but you haven't done anything with it. So maybe it's adding products. Maybe it's launching your website. Whatever it is, I want to challenge you to take action. There's a lot of knowledge in this podcast that you could go out and you could apply today. So information without implementation will not help you achieve your goals. I'm going to leave that one at that. So let's jump on to tip number 5, the 5th habit of highly successful sellers. And this one is they follow a proven strategy. So I'm going to start out by sharing a Tony Robbins quote that I've always loved. It's always very much inspired me because I consider myself a lifelong learner, and I believe if you're not growing, you're dying. So I'm always trying to learn, and I'm always investing in myself. And what he says here is, if you want to achieve success, all you need to do is find a way to model those who have already succeeded. Boom.
Boom.
That's it. Like, success is a result of strategy, not luck. Those people who have seen success, I guarantee you, they were not lucky. I guarantee you that they followed a strategy, because every single successful seller that I've ever met, myself included, Carrie included, we all followed a proven strategy. We didn't take a shot in the dark. And, you know, I'm not saying that you can't do this without like coaching or anything. Like there is a potential, there's a possibility that you could see success without investing in yourself and training and coaching in a community. However, here's what I will say. The longer that you go without seeing wins along the way, without hitting milestones along the way, the more likely you are to quit. And it makes sense, right? It makes sense. Like, you need wins along the way. Maybe that win is just to launch a website. Maybe the first win is to choose a niche. Maybe the second win is or a second milestone is to launch a website. Maybe the third one is to make your first sale. You need wins along the way to keep going, because if you've been trying to do this for 2 years on your own and you haven't seen success yet, I mean, I commend you for putting 2 years into this, even though you haven't seen anything. But it doesn't have to be that way, right? The most successful people, they follow a proven strategy. They just follow it. It's not guesswork. They learn from people who've been where they want to go, and they follow the strategy. And this is something that we hear a lot from our students when people say, you know, like one of our students who had the 7 times return on ad spend. Someone asked her, hey, how are you doing it? And one of the things they said was, I'm doing what the coaches told me. And I'm not trying to toot our own horn. I'm not. But the point is, they're following a strategy and they're seeing results. This wasn't a coincidence, and this wasn't due to luck, right? I think one of the biggest myths that people believe in this space and a lot of spaces is, if you build it, they will come. I see this so often, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts about this, Carrie, but I have people reach out to me. I love when people DM me on Instagram and reach out to me and kind of share their stories and where they're at and stuff. And I have a lot of people reach out and they're like, hey, I chose a niche. I launched my website. I'm not making any sales. And my first question is, okay, how are you driving traffic? Like, oh, I'm posting my products to social media. Brah, that doesn't work in 2024. It didn't work. That never worked. Like, just kind of like having a business and doing the bare minimum never worked. And it's never gonna work. You need to have a marketing strategy. First of all, you need something that people actually want to buy. And I think this is the number one reason why people aren't making sales. Their products they haven't created something yet that people want to buy. You need something people want to buy, and then you need to get eyeballs on that product. Really, that's like when you bring it down to the studs, that's what it comes down to. Having something people want to buy, and then driving traffic to that product. And a lot of times, almost in every single case, like I can't think of a single case where this wasn't the case. It was one of those two things that was holding people back from having success. So what you need to do is, you need to figure out what it is, where the bottleneck is, or where the roadblock is, and you need to fix that. So, I just, throwing up a shop and hoping people are going to find you, that is not a winning formula, because hope is not a strategy. That's never worked.
Hope is not a marketing strategy.
Hope is not a marketing strategy. And that's never worked in the past. It doesn't work now. It's never going to work in the future. So, Carrie, I want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, man. I so far, golly, all 5 of these are so good. I'm sure the last 2 are going to be so good. Stay tuned. Keep listening for the final 2
Totally.
mindsets. But you're so right. I mean, there's so many thoughts that I had throughout that. The first one, I'll probably forget them all, but the first one I was thinking of was that I just want people to really know is that you mentioned early on in that you can have success without coaching or a course or following a strategy, right? Of course, there's a million examples of that. What following a proven strategy, investing in a program or a mastermind or some kind of coaching, personal coaching, whatever it may be, investing in following a proven strategy, what it does is it shortens the timeline to get to your goals, to get to your success. And
Boom.
I just want people to understand that you can, if you want to be a successful print on demand seller, you can go do it on your own without, you can figure it all out on your own, but that's going to take you years. It took me it took me however long, probably 6, 7 months before I decided that I was sick of trying to figure it out on my own because it wasn't working. And then so for me to spend some money and invest in a course that then I just followed that strategy, and that's how I started having success with e-commerce. But anyways, like it's going to take you potentially years to become a 6-figure seller, right? But you can shorten the timeline by just following somebody who's already done it, right? And getting some of those keys. Like there's people that come to our programs that they're like, I've had 10 stores and I've been doing e-commerce for 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
I was selling on eBay in 2000 and whatever, like, whatever. It's like, but they still haven't found the success that they've been looking for. And it's like, they finally took that leap and invested into, something that can help them shorten that timeline and get there quickly, right? By just duplicating the success. And, so that's the biggest thing, right? Having a strategy is so important. And like one other thing, just to kind of bring it back to modeling others that have had success. I mean, this has been a huge key to all the success that I've had, and I teach it and in my programs and webinars and all kinds of different things. But like, man, like you don't have to reinvent the wheel, right? Like you don't have to come up with the next big thing. We have the internet, and there are like countless thousands and thousands of examples of successful, designs, successful stores, successful whatever, that you can literally go and see how they did it and just model it, right? And we keep going back to Russell Brunson, but another thing that he talks about is like when it comes to funnel hacking, it's what he calls it. Like you could guess what? You could go to a store, an e-commerce store. You could actually pull out your credit card and you could actually buy their products and see what their upsells are, right? And like go through the whole process, see what emails you get after you purchase. What do the emails say, right? Like if you have to make an investment of $75 to learn the strategy, like, and actually buy the products from some e-commerce store that you can see is having a ton of success, like it's probably worth that $75 investment. You know what I mean?
Right.
And you can see all the different things. Did they send you text messages? What emails did they send you? What were the upsells? What did they have on the thank you page, right? Like what was the pricing strategy? What was the percentage off that they did on those upsells? I mean, like, how do they handle their customer service? I mean, all the different things. And so like you have to be willing to make those kind of investments to shorten the timeline to success. And you can, and the other thing, we're talking about is just modeling, man. There's so much successful things out there that you can go and model and learn from. And so, yeah, I mean, it's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just wrapping up this one, I think a really good example is thinking about like professional athletes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you become a professional athlete without investing in coaching, investing in someone who knows what they're doing and they're going to put you through the training that you need to accelerate your success? Yeah, you can. But if there was 2 people, one person went through coaching to become, let's say, a professional football player, and the other person was self-taught, just, went on the internet and found how to become an expert football player, who do you think is more likely to be successful? And who do you think is likely to be successful faster? Right? Like the person who invested in that coaching to learn from people who have these strategies to accelerate their skills, they're significantly more likely to succeed. And the same goes for business. So that's just an example that I like to use. They say even champions have coaches. Like Tiger Woods has a coach. Every professional athlete has a coach. And I'm not saying, like, going back to Carrie's point, you can have success without following a proven strategy. However, if you want to accelerate that success and not spend a bunch of time and potentially money making costly mistakes, then investing in a strategy can absolutely change the game for you. It did for me. Like, I started my first business without a strategy in print on demand, and to no surprise, it was an epic failure. I never made a single sale. And I almost quit at that point because I was like, oh, screw this. This doesn't work. It's a scam. You know what I mean? But the fact is, like, I didn't truly put my best foot forward. And it was only when I actually went out and invested in training and coaching that I was able to get to 6 figures in 8 months. Do you think I would have been able to do that if I continued along the path that had made me 0 sales? No. I mean, maybe eventually, but I made a lot of costly mistakes. I wasted a lot of money before I invested in training and coaching. I ran ads to crappy products that nobody wanted. I was in a niche that, like, no one seemed to care about, or at least I just didn't know what they cared about because I didn't know anything about the niche. That's on me. I'm so glad that when I came to that fork in the road, that I decided not to quit and decide to change my strategy, and it worked. And I was able to build 2 businesses, and now I've made millions in sales, all from learning a proven, tried and tested strategy. So I'm going to leave that one at that. We're going to move on to number 6, the 6th habit of highly effective sellers. And this is a big one, guys, a big one. They focus on revenue generating activity. And I want to start with a quote, and then I want to share a quick story. So the quote is from Jim Rohn. Shout out to Jim Rohn. He's awesome. He says, "Do not major in minor things." That's it. I think that's a really good quote. I think that's a really powerful quote. Do not major in minor things. And I want to share a quick story about a student of mine who, they're awesome. They're awesome. I really like them. But when they came to me, they had spent a year working on their website and they had still not launched. A year.
Wow.
Man, like, you can see a lot of success in a year, but you cannot see that success if you're waiting a year to launch your website. And by the way, launch your website doesn't guarantee you any sales. That's just the beginning. Then you need to have what people actually want to buy, and then you have to market it, right? You have to drive traffic to it. But it pained me. I was like, you waited a year. This is something that I recommend my students either have it done over a weekend, if possible. It all depends on your bandwidth, right? But I truly believe it should never take more than 30 days. It should never take more than 30 days. That's actually a while. Like, that's really spreading it out. And what I notice is that a lot of the successful sellers, they're long past that point early in the process. Like, they've chosen their niche, they've created their website, and now they're focused on what moves the needle. They're focused on design research, design creation, marketing. That is, their eyes are on the prize. And the more that they do of that, the better they get. And the better they get, the better results they get. It's just like a momentum. It's just a momentum game. But Carrie, I want to hear your thoughts about this.
Yeah, man. It's so important. I mean, it's something we all do. You know, I get so many thoughts coming to my mind. It's hard to remember all of them. But I think in order to move forward, you have to focus on the things in the business that move you forward. You know, I see so many students. I mean, they continually just want to, like, tweak their website. And it's like, at some point you just got to be like, the website's good. Let me just focus on marketing, right? Like, marketing and selling is the only thing that's going to put money into the bank account. It's not the only thing that's going to move your business forward, but it is the only thing that's going to make sales, is focusing on those revenue generating activities. You know, customer service is another one. Like, I love customer service. It's great. You have to do it, but, like, it doesn't make you any more sales. Like it really doesn't. It's like, it's you want to do a good job, right? And yes, like it can correlate into like future, repeat buyers and those kind of things. I get that, but like, what are the things that are moving the business forward? And I think, I don't remember where this came from. I'm trying to think, but somebody teaches, you may know where it came from. Somebody teaches to, take all the things you have to do in your business and break those up into like a dollar amount. Like, what is this task worth? Like maybe you have $1 tasks, you have $5 tasks, you have like $25 tasks, like and you actually like start bucketing those tasks out based on how, like, what they're worth, right? And then when you look at it that way, you see like, oh, responding to customer service inquiries, like I could outsource that because it's like I'm not a $10 per hour worker, right? If you're listening to this, like, you're a business owner. That means your time is likely worth hundreds and hundreds of dollars per hour, maybe more, And so if you are worth $200 per hour, you cannot continue to do even $50 per hour tasks, right? You think about designs, like actually creating designs. That's an important thing. But even if you paid somebody $50 an hour to do those designs, like, your time is worth more than that. Like, it really is. And that allows you to focus on the revenue generating activities like marketing, selling, and really advancing your business forward. So that's what I would say. That's what I'll say based on that. I mean, I love the quote you have here: do not major in minor things. Like, yeah, that's exactly what we're saying. Like, you don't want to be really good at those, things that you shouldn't be good at as a really high value business owner. You want to focus on the things that are important to growing the business and putting money in your bank account.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I'm going to say one last thing about this, and this might ruffle some feathers, but this is why I'm a big fan of print on demand and not your own products. We probably have some listeners that print their own products. That's totally fine. You do you. However, while other people are doing design research, creating new designs and marketing them, you're printing products, you're packing them, you're driving them to the post office, and you're shipping them off. That is taking you away from revenue generating activity. And that's not
100%.
revenue generating, right? Like, this is why I'm so big on print on demand. And a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to do print on demand because the margins aren't good. It's
too expensive. It's like, it's worth it. It's worth it, man.
Time worth, right? How much is your time worth? Okay, if you get an order and you make a bit of a better profit margin, let's say you make $5 more on a t-shirt. I'm just throwing that number out there. You make $5 more profit margin on a t-shirt. Well, let's see, by time you order that, spend the time ordering that shirt, order the transfers, buy all this stuff, invest in all this stuff up front before you've made the sale, and then take the time to print it, take the time to pack it, take the time and gas to drive it to the post office. How much time have you spent? Maybe it takes you an hour to do all that if you put it all together and you made $5 more. Is your time worth that extra $5? Are you worth $5 an hour? Hell no. Like, you're all worth more than that. You need to know, you need to believe that you're worth more than that. $5 an hour, that's like slave labor. You know what I mean? And so, like, this is why, like, I don't think there's a super strong case to be made about printing your own stuff. Yes, you can have some more, some more marketing and branding advantages, right? You can put your own inserts, you can do all these things, you can create your own shipping, packaging, which some print on demands even allow you to have custom packaging now. But really, it comes down to, where is your time best spent? And then not only that, like, if you do start taking off, guess what? You're going to be spending so much time printing, packing, and shipping orders that you're not going to be able, it's going to take you away from the revenue generating activity that got you those orders and are going to continue to keep those orders getting in. Not only is that super unenjoyable for you, but it's also not sustainable and it's not scalable. You become your own bottleneck, right? And I had a friend who created a 7-figure brand in a very short amount of time, and they started printing all their own orders, and this exact thing happened to them. They became their own bottleneck. They had to scramble to find people who they could pay to help them print stuff. They're working around the clock and they were miserable. Plus, they couldn't spend the time on the revenue generating activity, that could have kept them growing a whole lot faster. So yeah, it's a big deal. Like, you got to focus on the revenue generating activity. And what I say to people is break it up into 2 phases. First phase, choose a niche, build a website, throw up a couple designs. Phase 1, do that in 30 days and exit phase 1, and then focus your energy and time on phase 2, which is design research, design creation, and marketing. That is going to move the needle for you, right?
And we're not saying that when you're just starting out, you have to hire a bunch of people. Like, I think that's important for people to know.
No,
like,
definitely not.
Yeah, like in the beginning, like, of course you're going to be you're going to be wearing a lot of hats. You're going to be trying to get those things done. One of the big things is, like, with the internet, so many things can be automated, right? And just, you don't want to be focused on the wrong things. Like, an example that I mentioned earlier was like perfecting your website, right? Like, get done with your website and just leave it like it's done. Like,
Right.
go sell. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't keep just tweaking it for these you're tweaking things that are going to make the most minor difference when you could be spending that time on things that can make a huge difference. Yeah. And so, like, we're not telling you that in the beginning you're going to have to hire all these people and you should, but like, you're going to progress through these phases. Like, yes, in the beginning, you're probably going to build the website. You're probably going to have to do the customer service. You're probably going to have to run the ads. You're probably going to have to do all those things, but like, you're going to progress through those phases and you're going to start to automate things. You're going to put your focus on the right things that can actually generate revenue. And you're going to, as you grow, you're going to start to delegate things out to free up more of your time.
Exactly. I wasn't suggesting that you need to hire anyone at the beginning.
I think it was more me saying that.
What's that?
I think it was more me when I was talking. I was talking a lot about delegating stuff.
Yeah, because I was like, I don't recommend hiring anyone at the beginning, but I was just making a case for print on demand because essentially you have outsourced and automated all the fulfillment, all the printing, packing, shipping. Not only that,
it's the same thing, right? It's the same thing as if you were to hire people. Like, that's what you're doing essentially. Like, print on demand is amazing because instead of you like paying a $50,000 a year salary or something, you just pay for each order, right? And you're doing the same thing, but you're paying it out per order. I got a bug.
Yep.
It's like a bug.
No, 100%. Like, it is an extension of your team. And once you get that off your plate, that's going to free up, that's going to unlock a lot more time for you to spend on the revenue generating activity, which is actually going to make you the sales. So yeah, like, if you want to print your own stuff, you do you, but I just want you to make an informed decision and kind of do a cost benefit analysis of your situation and see if it's actually worth it. Because $5 an hour, I don't even think that's minimum wage in any state in America. So you're essentially giving yourself nothing for your time, and your time is extremely valuable. So, all right. Moving on to the 7th and final habit of highly successful sellers, and that is they think long-term and they treat this like a business and not a get-rich-quick scheme. So I want to share a quote, of course, to start this one off. And this quote says, "He or she who perseveres conquers." And personally, I don't think overnight success exists. And sometimes you do meet print on demand sellers or apparel sellers and they see early success. But one consistent trend I've noticed amongst those people is this is not their first rodeo. A lot of them have been doing some sort of entrepreneurship, online marketing, selling on eBay, selling on Amazon, some sort of experience that kind of led them to this step. And that experience gave them a leg up out of the gate because they had learned a lot of skills that they can carry over into this business. So, that's what I've noticed with anyone who's seen quick success. Go ahead, Gary.
No, I'm just going to add that it's also the other thing that I've seen, and this happened to me. So I'm a example of this, is that when they do have that overnight success, it's not sustainable, right? And it's not long term. So usually it's a spike, and then it comes crashing down, and it's like, you don't know how to do it again. That's what happened to me when I first started. Had a first 3 months, like I had a ton of success, first apparel brand. Then it all came crashing to the ground, like literally almost down to zero, because I just had this quick burst of like success. And then I had no idea how to continue that success.
Right.
And that was the point after months of trying where I finally had to, I invested in a course. I started to like learn the real nuts and bolts and the strategies and tactics behind how to have that success and the mindsets. And I started to like slowly figure that out. And it became a long-term success for me as opposed to just like a quick overnight type thing.
Right. But even if you go a step before that, like you were flipping phones on what, eBay or something?
That's true.
You had been doing online sales already. First of all, you came from a sales background in cellular phones.
Retail,
and then you had been doing online sales. What was it? I'm trying to remember. Was it flipping phones on eBay?
Yeah. So I bought my wife's engagement ring by flipping iPhones on eBay. Like I would buy them on Craigslist and then I would sell them for like a markup on eBay. And then there's a whole nother story with that. How I was selling these phone cases that were from China that I thought were like real, but they ended up being fake. And then I got sued by the company. It's a whole thing. Anyways, keep going. Let's not go there.
Yeah, no, but my point is it goes back to this was not your first rodeo. Like you had been doing online sales and you had sales experience before that. So there's a really good Steve Jobs quote. He has so many good quotes, but there's a really good one about this. And he says, I'm convinced that about half of what separates successful entrepreneurs from the unsuccessful ones is pure perseverance.
Just don't quit.
Like that's the thing. That's part of the secret sauce is
if you don't quit, you win, man.
What's that?
If you don't quit, you win.
Yeah. Like you don't fail if you don't quit. You know what I mean? And I think that's part of the secret sauce is you don't quit after 30, 60, 90, 100 days. Like you have to give this a proper shot. Like at this point, I would not invest my time or energy into any business unless I was willing to give it at least 12 months of consistent work. Not 12 months of doing work for the first 2 weeks, and then leaving it for the next 11 months and 2 weeks. 12 months of consistent work. Because I know from my experience as someone who was like before I found print on demand, I was looking for kind of quick ways to make money. I was looking for the side hustles that everyone was talking about, and I tried a lot of them and I failed. But the biggest reason I failed was because I just didn't stick with them for long enough. I just was distracted by the next shiny opportunity and I jumped ship. And print on demand was the first time that I actually stuck with something for years as an entrepreneur. And to no surprise, I'm still doing it like 8 to 9 years later, you know? It's what allowed me to be self-employed ever since 2016. But if I had jumped ship from print on demand onto something else when my first business failed, guess what? I would probably be jumping from opportunity to opportunity and working the same unfulfilling job that I was working before I became an entrepreneur. So yeah, I mean, you got to think long-term. You got to be in this for the long term. If your plan is just to give up after 30, 60, 90 days, I don't mean to discourage you, but like I would tell you that this isn't for you. That's not how most successful entrepreneurs succeed. I don't know anyone who's seen a sustainable level of success with no prior experience in the first 30, 60, or 90 days. I just don't know anyone. Maybe, maybe they exist, but they're like 1 in a million probably. You know what I mean? Carrie, I want to hear your thoughts on this.
Man, not a lot to add on this one. I think it's so true, man. I think I talked about earlier in the podcast, we quit as humans. We just quit too early. We just quit too early before seeing that success. I think about, I like just persevere, like keep going. One thing I did think about earlier in this point, as you were talking was, you have in here that, you're willing to put in a minimum of 12 months of consistent work, right? Like not 20 or not 30, 60, 90 days. I think that what you were not saying by that is we're not saying that, you have to like continue to work on the same business idea for a year without any success. I think you have to be quick to fail. Like you have to be quick to move on. Don't get too attached to some idea that you have. we see hundreds and hundreds of print on demand and apparel businesses. And to be honest with you, a lot of the new ones, they're just not good ideas. Like they're just not great ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that we get emotionally attached to those ideas because we believe in them. And I get it. I've totally been there. And we think that, okay, it's not working. I have to keep trying. I have to keep trying. I have to keep trying. And it's like, maybe that's not the one. Your first business is probably not going to be your most successful business. Like there's a good chance it's not. So when you and people often ask me, how do I know when to quit? And that's a really hard question. And I don't have the perfect answer, because sometimes you do see a little bit of success. And you think, should I keep going? And you have to make those hard decisions. But I would tell you, man, if you commit to it for 60 to 90 days and you don't see any success, you don't see there's just not much happening. You got 1-2 sales maybe, don't quit. But it's okay to find a new niche, to start a new store, to shut that one down and move on. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. But you have to be willing to continue to, it's not like this business model doesn't work, right? Like we know it works.
Right.
And you should have confidence that it works. You just have to find the right idea, the right strategy for you and what's going to work for you. And like I said, that may not be your first one, but what we're saying here is committing for 12 months doesn't mean you commit to, some random niche, apparel thing for a whole 12 months. It's okay to change. It's okay to make the tweaks. It's okay to shut a store down and start again. And it's easy to do that. Right. Mm-hmm. And you should just don't get too emotionally attached and be willing to fail fast.
Yeah. Fail fast, fail forward. And that was my experience, man. My first business was terrible. Everything about it was terrible. And rather than quit, which I seriously considered, I decided to pivot and go into something that I knew was a profitable niche, something that I was personally passionate about. And to no surprise, I had success and I was able to carry over some of my learnings. It's not like I had to start from scratch and I didn't know anything. I already knew how to start a Shopify website. I already knew some marketing strategies. I already knew, what products were popular. I already had some knowledge I was taking to this next opportunity. So, yeah, I 100% agree. Some people, they're going to see success way sooner than 12 months. But the point is, that's the mindset you should have. I'm in this for the long term, whether I see quick wins or not. Mm-hmm. And yeah, don't be afraid to pivot. We've had lots of students pivot. I've pivoted. It's a very normal thing. And this is, again, goes back to how grateful I am for print on demand, because it makes it so easy. I can just shut down my Shopify store, start a new Shopify store, connect to my print on demand, and have a totally new brand with very little upfront investment. And I didn't lose much at all from the other brand by shutting it down. Mm-hmm. I don't have a bunch of inventory sitting in a room that I have to sell off at, liquidate or have to just give away. That's the beauty of print on demand. It gives you that flexibility. So, yeah, I mean, there's a quote that I think is really powerful that says, "The day you plant the seed is not the day you eat the fruit. Be patient and stay the course." I think that's huge. Don't expect huge success in the first 30, 60 or 90 days, but do the things that you need to do to get to that. But, don't be so quick to throw in the towel. That's the number one reason why people don't see success, I believe, in this industry, is they just quit too soon. They just quit too soon. That's really what it comes down to. And, something that might inspire you along the way is the more you're putting into your brand, the more valuable it's becoming over time. Every email you're collecting, every sale you're making, every social media follower you're getting, you're building a valuable asset that's continuing to grow and get more valuable over time. And a lot of the times what we see with students who see success, at first, they're building, they're growing their social media list, they're running ads, they're getting followers, and they're not making sales. But as soon as they come out with that winning design, as soon as they drop that, boom, it's like Pandora's box has just opened up and the sales start flowing in because they've taken the time to build the following of raving fans, and they've taken time to collect emails and do all these things to prepare them for the success when they get there. And that's another common trend amongst our successful sellers. Like, they were in building mode even when they weren't making any sales. But then when they came out with that product, there were benefits that came quick because they had been building up to that point. So in closing, I just want to quickly recap these 7 habits of highly successful sellers, because we went deep. We've been here really an hour and 20 minutes. We went deep in this episode. So I'm just going to do a recap for anyone who forgets. First is they believe success is possible for them. Second, they have a strong why. Third, they set smart goals. Fourth, they take action. Fifth, they follow a proven strategy. Sixth, they focus on needle moving activity.
Noodle moving activity.
Needle moving activity, revenue generating activity. And then number 7, they think long term.
Now I'm thinking about noodles. Give me some noodles.
Sorry, well, we'll wrap it up there so Carrie can go have some noodles. But this was a lot of fun. It was nice to break it up from just a strategy episode, because, it's sometimes when it's all strategy all the time, it can kind of lead to some overwhelm. That's why we like to break up episodes in different ways. So hopefully you guys found this helpful. If you did, let us know. Everything we do on this podcast is for you. And so we're going to do more of what you like and less of what you don't like. So if you did like this or any episode, let us know so that we know to do more of it. So let's wrap it up there. Carrie, any closing thoughts?
Man, if you're listening at this point, you are the real deal. Thank you. Thank you for hanging out with us. You've made it an hour and 20 plus minutes into this podcast. So we love you. You are the true committed. You should absolutely send us a message on Instagram or wherever and let us know that you've been listening, because we love to know who the diehards are. Yes. We appreciate you.
Yes. Thank you so much, everyone, for being a listener to the podcast. Stay awesome. Remember, you're always one design away. Let's go.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Print on Demand Playbook podcast. If you enjoyed it, please leave us an honest review on whichever platform you're listening from. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks again, and we'll see you next week.